Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Laura Prada from our Telesur studios in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with our news. You stay with us. We begin with our news. In an exclusive interview for Telesur, the Cuban scientist and doctor Luis Herrera expressed that Venezuelan authorities have acted timely to avoid further COVID-19 infections and confirmed that the country has effective sanitary measures and an organizational capacity to eradicate the novel coronavirus. Dr. Herrera also referred to the success that interferon 2B, which his creator also has had on the treatment of COVID-19 patients in China. Let's hear what he had to say.
In China, practically few weeks after the beginning of the break, people start to use interferon in a way to avoid complications of people being infected with the virus. Mm-hmm. This is a molecule that has some side effects, but not very critical. The main idea is just to avoid big complications. Mm-hmm. I mean, if people are having a normal situation with respect to interferon, young people having a good immuno response, mm-hmm. they perhaps don't need the interferon. But people being already old people or some people having some immuno problem, then they should have some kind of treatment in order to avoid complication. This is the main purpose of the use of interferon, because the main thing here is to decrease the we can say the multiplication of the virus in the population and not to permitting people being submitted to the possibility of being, we can say, in drastic situation.
And also talking about Cuba, they received the MS Bremer cruise ship after British authorities requested help to disembark in the island and transfer its passengers and crew to United Kingdom. The ship is reported to be carrying at least 5 confirmed cases of COVID-19.
While there are people who are sick on the cruise ship and others who may be in the incubation period, our country has the necessary resources, means, and know-how to conduct a successful operation and ensure that none of those patients arriving on the ship will transmit the disease to any of those with whom they will be in contact in Cuba. Our Ministry of Public Health has meticulously prepared itself with all human and material resources and technologies to undertake a quick and precise evacuation operation. We must resolve the situation on this cruise ship after other countries decided to deny it access. These people have to be transferred to their respective countries, and we are confident that with the preparations we have made, this critical situation facing those aboard the ship will be resolved.
And Chinese authorities and the government has allowed to launch the clinical trial of a potential COVID-19 vaccine. Researchers at China's Academy of Military Medical Sciences received approval to launch early-stage human safety tests of an experimental coronavirus vaccine starting this week. The vaccine has been under development since January 26, and phase 1 of the trials aims to recruit 108 healthy patients to take part in the experiment between March 16th and December 31st.
In accordance with international standards and domestic laws and regulations, we have made preliminary preparations for its safety, effectiveness, controllable quality, and mass production. We have made all preparations to start the formal clinical trial at any given time.
Scientists highlighted the importance of the relevance of the project for a potential COVID-19 vaccine.
We are now in a global village. We are a community of shared future for mankind, and vaccine is one of the most powerful scientific and technological weapons to end the novel coronavirus epidemic.
Meanwhile, in Chile, workers in a shopping mall have called on the government to order the closure of shops amid the COVID-19 outbreak. With at least 200 COVID-19 cases across the country, the Chilean government has ordered classes in schools and universities to be suspended, and it has closed all borders and restricted public gatherings. Yet, shopping malls like the Costanera Center in Santiago de Chile remains open, prompting mall workers to demand the closure for the sake of public health during the pandemic.
If it's supposed to be something so extreme, why don't they close a mall? Close a park and not close a mall, especially here on the Costanera where we have a lot of tourists. In my case, I am in good health, as they say, but I have chronically ill people in my family. And what happens if I get infected? I arrive home and infect my family, so these measures have not been taken.
And Russia has ordered the construction of a temporary hospital with 500 intensive care units in Moscow to meet demands as the country registers 114 cases of the novel coronavirus. Following the Chinese model, the hospital will be ready in about a week and will be located 50 kilometers outside of Moscow. Most of Russia's cases involve foreigners, but the Kremlin expects that it will quickly spread among Russian citizens as well.
Thanks to the operational measures taken in advance, both in the first weeks of the epidemic in the world, we were able to contain mass penetration and spread. I want to emphasize precisely the mass penetration and spread of it in Russia.
Moving on to Africa, 400 cases of the novel coronavirus have been confirmed across the region, with a number of countries imposing a range of preventative and containment measures against the spread of the pandemic. According to the latest World Health Organization data of COVID-19 in Africa, the situation remains fluid as countries begin to confirm cases. In a little over a week, 21 new African countries have reported cases, bringing the total affected to 30 nations. In West Africa, Liberia and Benin reported their first cases on Monday. Somalia, meanwhile, confirmed its first case of the novel coronavirus and announced a ban on international flight in and out of the country. Likewise, Rwanda has shut schools and churches for 2 weeks and banned concerts and large gatherings. Meanwhile, Ethiopia closed the schools and suspended large public gatherings. There are also reports coming in of new cases in Ethiopia and Nigeria. And Gambia confirmed its first case of COVID-19. Health Minister Ahmadou Lamine Samate said that the patient is a young woman who returned from the United Kingdom on Sunday, March 15th. As a result, Gambia's president has banned public gatherings and closed all schools for 3 weeks, starting from Wednesday. And the European Union is locking down its borders with all other nations in a bid to stop the spread of coronavirus. German Chancellor Angela Merkel announced this Tuesday that all external borders for countries within the group will close for 30 days for non-essential travel. People within the 27 member states can still travel between those countries, although there will be some restrictions, and Europeans stranded abroad will be repatriated. People returning to their home countries might be asked to isolate themselves for 2 weeks. Medical staff, medicine, and goods won't be restricted across external borders. And Iran announced a further 135 deaths from the novel coronavirus, bringing the death toll to 988 in one of the world's worst hit countries, with over 16,000 cases reported. COVID-19 has spread to all of Iran's 31 provinces since it first emerged last month in Qom. Health Minister Sayed Namaki reported that shrines and other holy sites had agreed to close until after the holidays, which start this Friday. The move comes after Iran reported 1,000 new confirmed cases. The new health ministry continues to call on the population to take this virus seriously and in no way attempt to travel unless absolutely necessary. Like this, we go for a first break. Remember, follow us on Twitter at Telesur English and on my account at Laura P. Telesur. We'll be right back. We are back with our news, and we are back with the primary elections in United States. The U.S. state of Ohio called off its Democratic primary less than 12 hours before polls were due to open in order to protect voters and poll workers from the novel coronavirus outbreak. Officials in Florida, Arizona, and Illinois decided to continue with the vote, but by early Tuesday morning, it was reported that fears surrounding the virus were preventing people from heading to the polls. Some Florida polling stations couldn't open and poll workers didn't arrive. Voting rights groups have advocated for upcoming elections to be postponed or for states holding them as a schedule to adopt more lenient vote by mail and absentee ballot rules so that people don't have to show up at a polling place and put their health at risk. Campaigning has shifted from rallies to online events, and candidate debates are being held without a live audience. COVID-19 has now killed more than 80 people in the United States. Now let's take a look at the results at this minute. We begin checking out Florida. In Florida, here we have it. Joe Biden is leading the polls in Florida with 61.64% of the delegates, while Bernie Sanders has won 22.88% of the votes. And Joe Biden has virtually cemented his nomination as Democratic presidential candidate after beating Bernie Sanders in this Tuesday primaries. Let's hear the opinion of some voters at this Florida state.
A lot of elderly people vote in Florida. We have a lot of elderly population in Miami-Dade and Miami Beach. And as a result, we have two issues that arise. Number one, we have a lot of elderly poll workers that we have to protect. So we've been taking extra precautions as to them. And as to our voters, there has been a reduction in turnout of our elderly population.
My country is Italy. My entire family and everyone I love is there. And the situation is very bad, but they're taking it very seriously. And I don't see the same here. I mean, here economy goes first, but eventually they will shut down when it will be too late.
I don't think the state should postpone. I know they're trying to be safe, but I think politics is constantly changing, and you sort of had to take the snapshot altogether across the country, more or less. And if everybody waits till the fall, they may change their votes. So.
And in Illinois, Chicago elections commissioners scrambled to find substitute voting judges after hundreds informed the county clerk's office they wouldn't show up. Now we check the results that came out of Illinois. Here we have the results of the votes in Illinois, where Joe Biden also leads with 59.10% of votes, while Bernie Sanders got the second place with 36.17% of the votes. Now we move to Arizona. We check the numbers there that Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden got in Arizona. This is the latest information we have. Joe Biden is leading the polls with 43.06% of the votes, while Bernie Sanders continues second with 30.03% of the votes. And authorities in Ohio ordered the closure of all polling facilities just hours before voting was to begin. The decision was taken after a judge denied the state governor's request to delay the primary until June to protect voters from COVID-19.
It's still continuing to develop, but I think we have at least some guidance now where we're going. We can take care of our employees here now that are not feeling well. We have some. We've been exposed to a lot of people here at the Board of Elections. Some employees aren't feeling well. Yeah, we've got a tent set up outside here at the Board of Elections, and we are accepting curbside people to drop off their ballots at the curb. We are not voting anyone curbside, but people can drop off their ballots today until 7:30.
And as markets plummet, the U.S. federal government has prioritized keeping the economy afloat and called the coronavirus worse than 9/11 for the airline industry.
We absolutely believe in keeping the markets open, okay? Americans need to know they have access to their money. After September 11th, the only reason why the markets were closed was because the technology was disrupted. I've been on the phone with the major banks, with the New York Stock Exchange. Everybody wants to keep it open. We may get to a point where we shorten the hours if that's something they need to do. I think, as you know, this is worse than 9/11. For the airline industry, this is, they are almost ground to a halt. The president wants to make sure that although we don't want people to travel unless it's critical, we want to maintain for critical travel the right to have domestic travel.
Like this, we go for a second and short break. You stay tuned with us. We'll be right back with more news from Latin America and the Middle East. You stay tuned with us. The recount of all the votes cast in Guyana's general election of May 2nd was supposed to start this Monday, but was delayed by the Guyana Election Commission, the GCOM. The Electoral Commission called an emergency meeting with all 6 commissioners to address the issues surrounding the national recount on Tuesday. President David Granger and opposition leader Bara Jaddo agreed to a national recount under the supervision of a high-level team from the Caribbean Community, CARICOM. Both leaders gave assurances to CARICOM Chair Mia Madley that the recount will be facilitated and that Region 4, the most contentious district, will be counted first. However, the Election Commission is yet to commence to recount as the process continues to be marred in controversy. The stakeholders have been waiting for hours for the Commission to finalize the logistic arrangements to start the process. And new evidence has come out to the light in Colombia regarding the accusations of electoral fraud linked to President Iván Duque. Audio recordings leaked to the press day 2018 confirm a meeting held by the then candidate Iván Duque with 15 mayors of the Department of Magdalena, shared by parliamentarian Eduard Rodriguez. The recordings also mention businesses links between the late Colombian drug trafficker José Guillermo Hernández, alias Ñeñe, and Adriana Castro, who was appointed Colombian ambassador to Russia by Duque. The revelation of these new audio recordings directly link Duque to illicit activities linked to former President and Senator Álvaro Uribe, as well as Ñeñe. We move on. In Palestine, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Expatriates submitted a document before the International Criminal Court on Monday that presents allegations regarding war crimes and crimes against humanity committed within Palestinian territory. The move responds to the request by the pre-trial chamber of the court issued in January of this year, calling on both the Palestinian state and victims of Israeli attacks to submit written observations on what is happening in the territory. The state of Palestine reaffirmed the sovereignty of its territory, including the West Bank, East Jerusalem, and the Gaza Strip, recognized by the international community, for which it urged the ICC to end impunity and hold the perpetrators accountable for their crimes. In addition, a history of legal events was added to the observations in order to open the way for an official criminal investigation into the crimes perpetrated against the Palestinian people since the Israeli occupation began in 1967. We keep moving on. The Swedish government plans to send up to 150 soldiers to Mali to support a French military initiative combining special force troops from different countries in a bid to eradicate jihadist extremists from the country. The French initiative, named Operation Tabuka, aims to secure military special forces from several countries to accompany Malian troops into combat. According to a Swedish Foreign Ministry statement, the government has decided to put a bill to Parliament on Swedish participation in the joint unit. Mali, a large, mainly desert West African nation, ended a jihadist occupation of key northern towns in 2013 with French help, but the extremists remain highly active and have moved further south. A French anti-insurgency operation in the conflict-torn Sahel region, known as Operation Barkhane, is being extended to make way for this European force. France has 4,500 troops deployed in 5 Sahel nations. And Niger says that its army has killed at least 50 Boko Haram extremists after an attack on a military post. The West African nation reported that the heavily armed terrorist group Boko Haram fighters attacked the Eastern Timor post overnight on Sunday. The government reported that the army used air and ground forces to repel the extremists, killing at least 50 and destroying a large number of vehicles. One Nigerian soldier was injured, while Boko Haram is based in neighboring Nigeria. Its decade-long insurgency has forced its actions within that country, but the extremists have also staged attacks in Niger and Cameroon. And the Malawian President Peter Mutharika has refused to agree to the electoral reform bills passed by Parliament in February. The president claimed that the bill does not meet the test of constitutionality and lawfulness and that it infringes on the principle of separation of powers among various branches of the government. Mutharika dissolved his cabinet last week as transferred all ministerial powers, functions, and responsibilities to the presidency. A March 13th statement from the chief secretary to the government, Lloyd Muhara, confirmed the new arrangement, which comes in the run-up to the May 19th rerun of presidential elections that were annulled in February. Political analysts believe that this solution of the cabinet is a move to incorporate the ruling Democratic Progressive Party's alliance partner, the United Democratic Front, to help secure a win for Mutharika. Like this, we come to the end of this brief. Remember, you can find this and much more other information on our website, ulsterenglish.net, where you can read opinion articles, watch special interviews, and of course, do follow up to the most outstanding information happening around the world. Of course, there you can see special interviews as the one we were just showing you at the beginning of this news brief with the creator of the interferon 2B recombinant medicine due to fight the COVID-19 pandemic, effective on the treatment of the COVID-19. And of course, there you can do follow-up to the primary elections held in United States, also the latest on what's going on with the coronavirus and with the elections in Guyana. This is all for today. The invitation has been made. You continue with us with Telesur, always together, connecting our global thousands. Until next time, thank you for watching.